and welcome to episode 39 of A Slice of Pie podcast. My name is Kat Loftus. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we're in the last week of February. That's good news for most of us because we're ready for the warm spring weather. But before February slips away, we still want to celebrate Heart Health Month. And what better way to do that than to have as our guest Dr. Victor Diaz, cardiologist with Tidelands Health. Dr. Diaz has been practicing for 26 years. He began practicing here in July of 1998. And not only is he a great cardiologist, but he and his wife, Aixa, live across the street from us. So we've enjoyed having all this time together these many years and having their children and our children all grow up together and having suppers with them and spending some holidays with them. So they're a really great family, and he is a great cardiologist. And not only is he a great cardiologist, so smart, but he also has some interesting hobbies that he does when he's not at work. So I hope you're going to enjoy this interview with Dr. Diaz. I bet most of you that are watching this or listening to this might have seen him or visited with him from time to time, because the cardiologist ends up seeing just about everybody at some point, it seems like. But he gave a great interview. We went through it in the first take, so I'm very, very appreciative to Dr. Diaz for sitting down with us and going through these questions and letting us know what a cardiologist does and what we need to do to have good heart health. So without further ado, let's enjoy episode 39 of A Slice of Pie podcast. Hi, Victor. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Kat?
Thank you so much for letting me interview you for our podcast. As I said earlier in the opening segment, Dr. Victor Diaz is a cardiologist with Tidelands Health. And Victor, how long have you been a cardiologist with Tidelands Health?
26 years now. I started here in July of 98.
So it's safe to say you're probably the senior cardiologist on staff?
I am the one with the most years of service, yes.
Yeah, well, we thank you for that service too. Thank you so much. So before we get started, and I do want to speak to our listeners about you as a cardiologist, because it's February and that's normally thought of Heart Month. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I want to get you before the month is over. So we want to let our listeners know a little bit of background about you. So where were you born?
I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm. And how long did you go to high school there? And
yes, I went to high school at a Jesuit high school in Puerto Rico, San Ignacio. And then I went to college for undergraduate at Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Did you enjoy growing up in Puerto Rico?
Absolutely.
Fond memories?
Very much. Love my family. All of my family is still there.
Mm-hmm. You know, for any listeners that don't know, Puerto Rico is actually a territory of the United States. So we can freely travel there without a passport. Is that correct?
That is correct. Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens. Yes.
Are U.S. And it's very beautiful, beautiful beaches. So,
yes.
Have you gotten back there recently?
Not me. I haven't been there for probably about a year or so. My wife just came back from a trip down there to go see her mom.
I think she had a good time, didn't she?
She did.
Saw some beautiful pictures. So you went to high school there at a Jesuit high school. Then you went to undergraduate where?
Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Where did you go to med school?
I went back home to Puerto Rico for med school. I did my medicine school at the University of Puerto Rico School of Medicine. Mm-hmm. And then my residency, I did internal medicine residency at the VA hospital in San Juan.
Oh, okay. So did you do any residency in the United States or anything in the United States?
Fellowship, for cardiology fellowship. Once I finished my internal medicine residency, cardiology is a subspecialty of internal medicine. So I went back to Pennsylvania and I did my cardiology at Temple Hospital in Philadelphia.
And your wife, Aixa, was she doing her residency at the time, or y'all did it different?
So my wife was a classmate of mine in medical school.
Mm-hmm.
She did OBGYN, mm-hmm. which is a 4-year program. Internal medicine is 3 years. So she was a resident while I was a resident. Then I did a extra year as a chief resident so we could match times. Mm-hmm. And then when we went to Philadelphia, she was in private practice.
Okay, and then you were still...
And I was still in a training program in fellowship.
How old were you when you started practicing?
I was about 28.
28. So it takes about, it's a long time from when you start undergraduate to when you're practicing.
Yes. So I graduated college around 21. I was 25 when I graduated medical school, and then for actually, so little older to start practicing. So I was 25 when I graduated medical school, and then 4 years of residency. I was about 29, and 4 years of cardiology fellowship. So I was about 33 when I came here.
Yeah, I always think that any doctor with a specialty is going to be in their 30s when they start practicing.
Yes.
It takes a while, right?
Yes.
Do you get paid during residency?
You do get paid during residency. It's not the pay that somebody in general practices, but it's not like you are not being reimbursed, whatever.
Okay. Enough to pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, you have to also live a little frugally.
that's all right.
Not frugally.
It's good to start out small because you can always go up, right? So I would like to ask you some about your family. So tell us about your family.
So I'm married. My wife's name's Aixa. We have 3 children: Victor, Gabriel, and Nicole.
Okay. And so Victor is married now.
Victor is married, and he lives in San Diego. His wife is Emily, and they have two little kids, 2 boys. Little Victor, who's about 5, and Sebastian, who's 2.
And y'all love spending time with them, or just FaceTiming with them, don't you?
We do. We miss them. The distance is an issue, but they do like to FaceTime with us, and so we usually FaceTime with them about once a week. But we love spending time with them. And usually they come here about once a year, and we go to San Diego once or twice a year.
So what is your grandfather name?
Papa.
Papa. Okay, great. I heard that's just the best time in your life to be a grandfather and grandmother. And then Gabriel, also known as G, we all affectionately call him G. He's finished at Coastal Carolina, and he's working in Conway now, or is he back in school?
Both. So G is a special needs kid. He is autistic, and he went to Coastal Carolina's Life program. He completed the Life program there, and after the Life program, he did an internship and eventually got hired to work at Conway Medical Center in their IT department as a part-time employee 3 days a week. And he's been doing that for a couple of years, and he wants to progress. So he's gone back to school, and he's doing an associate's degree now at Horry Georgetown Tech in accounting and bookkeeping. And at the same, while it's still at the same time, still working at Conway Medical 3 days a week.
And G is a big sports fan, is that right?
He's a huge sports fan.
Sports fan. And if you don't, you can follow him on Twitter, on X. He always has some good facts and some good thoughts on X. I follow G on Twitter. And he received a big award when he was at Coastal Carolina. What was that award he received?
So when he was a freshman, there's another young lady that also went to the Life program, and her family is very involved with Coastal athletics because Savannah has always been very involved. And you probably heard her name, Savannah Thompson. She has also a playground in the Market Common area named after her through her family donation. And they had established an award to be given at Coastal Carolina, the Savannah Thompson Award, for a student that shows school spirit towards the sports programs. And many times it's been somebody in the Life program who's received that award. And when G was a freshman, he got the Savannah Thompson Award.
And he received it because
of his school spirit and his support of the athletic program there.
And he goes to as many athletic events as he can.
Absolutely. He when he was in school, he went to pretty much everything. Now that he's
every single sport, men and women, all
men and women, especially that he likes to follow the women's sport. He loves women's soccer, women's lacrosse, women's volleyball. Of course, he's a fan of the football and basketball programs, but I think some of the lesser attended programs while he was in school, they were very fond of him being part of their fans.
That's awesome. I just love that. And he's also a big fan of the women's soccer team, the pro soccer team in Raleigh.
Yes, he follows any sports that is Carolina affiliated. But he's a big fan of women's soccer, professional soccer, the Carolina Courage.
The Courage, that's right. And then Nicole she lives in New York City?
Nicole lives in New York City. She did a degree in writing and publishing, and she works for a publishing company in New York City.
I know she's always been very talented in writing.
Yes.
And I think she's enjoying her time up there. Um, so, how did you meet your wife? How did you meet Aixa?
Like I said, we were classmates.
Uh-huh.
We met in school.
Did you know each other at all back in your hometown?
No, we didn't. That's always an interesting story for me to tell. She went. She joined my elementary school was co-ed until the 6th grade, and then the boys moved up to Colegio San Ignacio. They did middle and high school together.
Mhm.
And at that point, the elementary school kept the 7th and 8th grade girls in the elementary. Then they went to Maria Reina. Both of these high schools are single sex. The San Ignacio's all males, Maria Reina is all females. So my wife moved into 7th grade at my elementary school, Academia San Ignacio, when I had just moved out. So all of her classmates were my former classmates. So all the girls and most of her friends from high school are the girls that I was classmates with and friends with in elementary school. And historically, the Maria Reina girls have dated San Ignacio boys because the schools are back to back. But she didn't. She dated boys in high school that were from my rival high school, San Jose. So and all her male friends were guys that I used to play ball against, or so I knew all of them too. And we never coincided. And even when she went to college at Notre Dame. There was a very close friend of mine that went to Notre Dame too, and she was very close with Frankie and all the other boys that were at Notre Dame from Puerto Rico. They had a group of Puerto Rican kids that were in school there, and they all bonded. And so I knew Frankie and I knew Eloy from playing ball against them. So I knew all those guys, and we never met until we met in high school, in medical school.
In med school. So how old were y'all when you met?
About 21.
Gosh, so y'all were just kind of traveling and orbiting around each other. And I'm glad you did meet. That's great. So when did you begin practicing medicine here at the beach?
July of 1998.
July of 1998. Okay. So, and then, we live across the street. We're so lucky to have y'all across the street. And when did we meet y'all?
We met early on, us having moved here, and I remember exactly when we met. We had gone up to Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
I forget for what, and we were on the way back, and we stopped at the McDonald's. That's by the back gate.
The back gate of the Air Force
market. The people, old people call it the back gate. Now it's the Market Common area.
Yeah.
We stopped at that McDonald's to have lunch, and there was this family there with the little kid had a Notre Dame jersey, little girl had a Notre Dame cheerleading outfit. And my wife obviously noticed that, and Victor started playing with that little boy and that little girl, and my wife started a conversation with the mom, and it happened to be you.
That's right.
And your son Patrick and your daughter Mary Catherine.
That's right. We had been up there because I think Patrick had a soccer game. And after the soccer game, we went by McDonald's to get something and just started chatting up. And it was fun to talk to y'all.
And then it turned out that you guys went to the same church we were going to,
That's
Precious
right.
Blood of Christ. So
That's right.
Then we would hang out back then Precious Blood was in what we call now Founders Halls. It was the garage.
Very small.
Small church. So we would hang out in the back of the church so that the kids will kind of entertain each other.
Yeah, and I was so excited one day to see y'all coming to look at the lot across the street. I said, "Oh, good, they're going to buy the lot across the street." So we've had a lot of fun times, a lot of good memories. So yes. I'm glad it all worked out. So you said you began practicing medicine in which year?
July of 1998.
July of 1998. Okay. And you are a cardiologist.
Yes.
And an interventionist. Am I saying that?
Interventional cardiologist.
Okay.
Yes.
Describe what an interventional cardiologist does, please.
So, interventional cardiology is a subspecialty of cardiology. As everybody knows, cardiology are doctors that take care of your heart. So interventional cardiology entails at least an extra year of training. And what we subspecialize is in doing catheter-based procedures. So the field of interventional cardiology originally was mostly treating coronary artery disease through catheter-based technology, angioplasties, and eventually stents. It's grown, the field has grown now, expanding besides coronary interventions to structural heart disease and things like transcatheter valve replacement of the aortic valve, transcatheter mitral valve repair with a mitral clip, um, closure of little holes in the heart like atrial septal defect or atrial or ventricular septal defects through catheter-based technology. Now that also probably entails even further training than what I have because it requires further training in structural heart disease. So I don't do some of those procedures. I mostly do coronary procedures.
Wow, as you listed all those out, I'm thinking, Victor does all those. That's a lot.
No, I don't do all of those. I don't have training in structural heart
Right.
disease, and I do refer the structural issues to the medical university.
But if a patient has a blockage,
Yeah,
then you can.
that's the focus of what I do is
Yeah.
treatment of coronary artery disease through
So,
catheter-based technology.
so that's when you put what's it called?
A stent.
A
So
stent in.
what we do in interventional cardiology is if your disease is amenable to treatment through catheters, because there's always the issue of whether somebody can or not be treated with interventional technique and whether they instead need bypass surgery. So coronary artery bypass surgery is done by cardiothoracic surgeons. I'm not a surgeon. People confuse that all the time. If you need open heart surgery, that's a cardiothoracic surgeon. But some anatomies are treatable, and many anatomies are treatable through catheter-based technology, which is what we do. And what we do then is, through the catheter sitting in your coronary artery, we put a little wire down the artery to be able to track over the wire a balloon and inflate the balloon and open up the artery with a balloon. And then we follow that usually by putting a little metal stent, which is like a metal scaffolding to keep that artery open. And that's usually mounted on a balloon itself. And as we expand the balloon, the stent expands to the predetermined size of the artery. We match, the stents come in different lengths and in different diameters, and we match the correct size and length and diameter to the artery that we're treating. And it's expanded through the balloon. The balloon comes out, and the stent stays behind to serve like a metal scaffolding to keep the artery open.
Veins and arteries aren't that big, so you're working in a very small space.
Yes. So the average size of a coronary artery is about 3 millimeters in diameter. But they balloons and stents come all the way from 2 millimeters in diameter to 5 millimeters in diameter. And then if you by any chance have bigger vessels, peripheral stents for the legs come in larger sizes too. So we can.
Do you have to use a camera?
It's done through X-ray.
X-ray. Okay.
It's done through X-ray.
Okay.
You're doing the procedure over X-ray, and you're injecting dye contrast, and you're seeing it on the TV screen right in front of you.
Wow, gosh, that's a lot. Well, thank you for doing that. I'm sure you're saving a lot of lives doing that. So, what does your weekly schedule look like? What do you do most weeks at work? What do you do at work?
So it depends on where I'm assigned to that week. We have multiple locations that we serve. We serve Georgetown Hospital, Waccamaw Hospital, and then we have offices in Pawleys Island, Merle's Inlet, and Market Common. So it depends on where I'm assigned that particular week. But most of the time, if I'll go in the hospital around 7:15 usually, or 7:30, and we do rounds in the hospital. If I'm assigned to be in the cath lab that day, if I'm at Georgetown and I'm assigned to be in the cath lab, then I stay in the cath lab the whole day. Days that I do office after rounding, then I'll go to the office and see patients in the office, and then many times have to come back to do afternoon consults and clean up there. And the week that we're assigned to Market Common is office only week. So that week is kind of different because I go to the office around 8 o'clock and I'm in the office from 8 until 3 o'clock, seeing patients all day.
Okay. So it's a little bit lighter than when you're down.
Well, it's not necessarily lighter because you're seeing a lot of patients that day, but you're not having hospital responsibility. So it just you're not having to trying to be in two places at the same time, kind of thing.
So not only do you work during the week,
Hmm.
but oftentimes you're working on the weekend. You're
Oh,
on call.
you have to take call, absolutely.
How often in a month? How many weekends do you take call?
So we are four cardiologists in the practice, and I do take call one every 4 weeks for the practice, but only two of us are interventionalists. So I am on call every other week, usually for the cath lab, in case somebody's having a heart attack and needs to go to the cath lab emergently. Now, hopefully, that's going to improve in August, and we have a couple of other guys joining the practice, hopefully in August, and so forth.
Well, great. Okay. So, so 2 weekends out of the month you're going to be working.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much.
Um, I know when you're working, when I'm at church and I come around the corner, I see you sitting way in the back in your sweatshirt or something. I know you've just come from
Well,
the hospital.
uh, I usually during weekend call, if there's no emergencies and everything goes smoothly, I can finish rounding around 11:30 or 10:30 to 11, and then sometimes make it to mass a little late. So I sit
Okay.
in the back,
Yeah.
and so that if the beeper go if I get a call or something, I'm not disturbing, and I can just go out the door and answer the call.
Okay. I want to ask you this. How has the job of physicians and cardiologists in particular, how has that changed since when you started to now? What changes have you seen?
Well, it's not necessarily that the job has changed, it's that I think the population in this area has grown significantly. So it's become busier because the population is bigger and the patient population is bigger. So I think, like I said, we have two future guys joining us in August. I think we are a little short-staffed and have been for a couple of years, and for the area that we serve and the population that we serve. So I think there's room for more cardiologists to be in the group.
Is it inevitable that most of us are going to land in your office one day? Do most people land at the cardiologist's office?
It's not inevitable, but it's likely that many people see the cardiologist for preventive purposes,
Mm-hmm.
because they have a family history. Some even come because they have high blood pressure or something like that.
Okay.
So hopefully you won't be seeing me because you've had a heart attack or something like that. But
Yeah. Um, so what can we do to prevent having a heart attack? What are our best life?
well, the first thing is to have a heart healthy lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
to eat right, to exercise routinely, to avoid smoking,
Mm-hmm.
and then control your risk factors. If you're hypertensive, make sure your blood pressure is well controlled. If you're diabetic, make sure your blood sugar is well controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure your cholesterol is low.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, be a bad cholesterol and LDL cholesterol below 100.
Okay.
So control your risk factors and live a heart healthy lifestyle.
Take a walk.
Eat right. A low fat diet. Avoid greasy foods, fried foods, um, and exercise routinely. Absolutely.
Gosh, I guess you do have a lot of patience because historically in the South, that's the foods we love the best are the greasy foods and the fried foods and the pound
Yeah,
cake and
yeah. There's job security in this area
yeah.
for a
There you
cardiologist.
go. There you go. Um, what do you enjoy being a cardiologist?
Absolutely. It was my calling. It
Mm,
was what I wanted to do. I
mm,
went into med school with an open mind. Everybody thought that my dad was an ophthalmologist, and
mm,
everybody thought that I was going to do ophthalmology. That's
okay.
an eye doctor. But I went into med school with an open mind to see what was going to be what I really was called and what I really liked. And turned out that early in med school, it was cardiac physiology what I liked the most. It was cardiac anatomy what I understood the best.
Mm-hmm.
It was cardiac pharmacology what I liked,
Mm-hmm.
what I was easier for me to understand and follow. It was a cardiac physical exam. What was more appealing to me when we went into the clinical years and started doing physical exam. And you can only hit the nail over the head so many times. And
Right.
finally, I said, maybe what I really need to do is cardiology.
So you were trying different things. You're trying different areas.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What would you tell young medical students that are aspiring to be a physician or cardiologist?
Well, the most important thing is that it is a very committed lifestyle. It does take a lot of time, and sometimes um, family time gets compromised a little bit. So the most important thing is that you're doing it because you are called to do that. If that's really what your discerning process reveals to you, that you really want to be a doctor, then I embrace you and tell you to go full steam ahead. If you are not sure and you think, well, I'm going to do medicine because doctors make a lot of money, it's not the right reason to go into medicine, and you're not gonna, at some point you're gonna regret the amount of time that you're having to put into your practice. Um, so long as it is really your calling in life, I say embrace it and go forward.
Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about that. You talked about discernment. You talked about your calling in life. So you have to have a love for your patients, a love for what you do, and you want to see them truly get better. You
Yes,
truly care about
absolutely.
their health. So I think your faith plays a lot in the way you care for people, the way you love people. So talk about how do you work your faith into your life? I mean, do you get up, do you pray in the morning? I mean, how is faith a part of your life and what you do?
It's a big part of my life. I am Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
and we attend Precious Blood of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a knight. That's part of being Catholic. I'm a Knights of Columbus,
Mm-hmm.
um, fourth degree Knight of Columbus,
Fourth
and
degree. You
I,
carry the sword.
I I do dress up in regalia occasionally. Sometimes my job doesn't permit me to attend all the functions that require
Mm-hmm.
uh, honor guard,
Right.
especially some of the funerals,
Right.
which normally happen during midday.
Yeah.
But and I'm also a cursillista.
Mm-hmm.
So
So Cursillo, those are small prayer groups, right?
cursillo is a way to live your faith,
Mm-hmm.
and it involves small Christian community grouping,
Mm-hmm.
and sharing with your other fellow cursillistas on what you've done regarding your piety, your study, and your action of your faith. I do have a fairly active prayer life. I do have a morning routine and an evening routine. The morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is I do the liturgy of the hours, and then I read I have like 4 different reflections that I get
Mm-hmm.
early in the morning through email, and they normally involve the daily gospel and then a reflection on it. So I do about 3 or 4 different reflections on that.
Do you find that doing a deep dive into your faith every day, prayer, you think that gives you strength to go do your job?
It does, and it centers me and gives me guidance on the occasions that I have an emergency real early in the morning, and I can't do that, or I have to skip that portion. That day is always kind of a chaotic, flustered day, so
Mm-hmm.
it does center me
Yeah,
significantly.
I feel the same way too. When I was teaching, I thought my best teaching days were when I said that prayer before I
Mhm.
got to school because everything's going a mile a minute when the teacher's at school, and you got to have something that's going to ground you and support you in that job. So I totally agree with that. When you are not working, what do you enjoy doing? The
Um,
few minutes that you're not working, what do you enjoy doing?
well, I do like boating. I wish I
Uh-huh.
had more time to do it.
Uh-huh.
I do have a boat, and I do enjoy going out in the water and the river and enjoy boating.
Uh-huh.
Um, we like to travel, and I
Uh-huh.
think you're going to approach that in some future
Yes, I
questions.
will.
Um,
You,
and we like to go out and have enjoy our local
yeah,
restaurants.
nice
So
meal.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. You like college sports?
we do,
Uh-huh.
we do.
Who's your favorite team?
College wise, we're fans of the University of Notre Dame.
You big
Everybody
fan.
knows that.
Big fan.
Many people think that I was the one that went to Notre Dame. They see me wear Notre Dame gear all the time. They say,
Mm-hmm.
well, the one that went to Notre Dame is my wife, and I have to make that very clear. And I
And
said
your
it
son,
early,
and your oldest
and,
son.
and then our oldest son Victor went to Notre Dame.
Uh-huh.
Um, But so we are big fans of Notre Dame. I'm Irish through marriage. Through
I
marriage.
love that. I love that.
Um, and But it's interesting. I would never sing the alma mater until Victor went to school and I made that first paycheck. And then I felt entitled to sing the alma mater.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people that sing alma maters that are fans of colleges that didn't go there. So I think you're safe with that. But yeah, that's paying the tuition certainly entitles you. Um, so you like Notre Dame for college sports. Are there any? I think you were pulled for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, didn't you?
Well, I pulled for the Eagles because like I said, we lived in Philadelphia for 4 years.
Mhm.
But I'm a Miami Dolphins fan
That's right.
for professional football. Most of the other sports, professional sports, I'm actually a Philly fan. I'm a Sixers, Flyers fan. So it's football, the one that's an outlier because I was a Dolphins fan from back in their undefeated season in the 70s and Larry Sonka and those guys. So
that's when Don Shula was coaching.
that's when Don Shula was coaching. So that stayed through, and I still suffer through being a Dolphins fan.
I love that. How about soccer, professional soccer?
I follow the EPL. I have a very good friend who used to be a pacemaker rep, who is from Manchester originally.
I'm talking about Roger.
Roger Huff, yeah. So Roger is native of Manchester, and he's the one that introduced me and my former partner to the EPL. And he's a Manchester. In Manchester, you have two teams, United and City. It's like New York fans; they have the Yankees and the Mets, and not necessarily like each other. And well, the same thing in Manchester. United and City are arch rivals, and you're either red or you're blue. There's no color in between.
And what was Roger? Manchester United?
No. Roger is a City fan, Manchester City.
Okay, I'm
so he introduced us to Manchester City, and I follow Manchester City.
Okay, good to know. Okay, let's talk.
And I followed Manchester City before they won all these four last EPL crowns in a row.
So you were in before they were popular.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about paella dinners.
Okay.
For somebody that doesn't know what a paella dinner is, can you explain what paella is?
So paella is a classic Spanish dish. It's a rice-based dish, and different areas of Spain put different things in it. Some areas it's more seafood, and other areas it's more a mixed thing between seafood and land foods, like they put rabbit or chicken and pork. But it's usually cooked in one big paella pan and shared. So I learned to make paella. My father went to medical school in Spain, and he learned to make paella there. And me growing up, my dad used to cook it. He had paella dishes that went anywhere from 20, 30 people to 150 people.
Wow.
So he would cook it usually for large parties and events. So I learned from him, and I brought it here. And there's many times that we offer that for many nonprofits as a fundraiser. We do
y'all are great about doing that.
We do a paella for 30 people, but the dish that I have is for about 30 people.
Is that your dad's dish? It's not your dad's.
No, I have two dishes. The first dish, the smaller dish, is about for 25 people, and my dad gifted that to me. That's the one I originally learned, but it's not his. He gifted that to me. And then I bought a second dish at one point. Actually, when Victor graduated college, we made a big paella dinner for all his college buddies and their parents on commencement, and I bought it and had it mailed over to South Bend, and then I had to bring everything back home. And that one's a little bigger, and that's the one that we use now.
So there's rice. Rice is the main component, I guess. But what are the proteins that you put into your paella?
So I make a mixed paella. So I have usually three land meats. I put some pork, some chicken, and ham. And then from seafoods, I usually put shrimp, scallops, mussels, clams, and if I can find some lobster tail.
Right. How long does it take you to make it? You have when do you get your seafood? The day before? Or a
I
couple days?
usually get the seafood the day before. I try to get as fresh as possible. When I make it for these parties, we kind of make everything from scratch, and I get the seafood, usually fresh seafood at one of the local seafood places. Um, and so I try to get it like the day before, and then we prep it that night. So we do some prepping the night before. We prep everything and we marinate it overnight. But the actual cooking the dish, from the moment I turn the gas on my gas burner
Yeah.
on to the time that we're ready to serve is usually between an hour and a half to 2 hours of cooking.
Wow, that surprises me because I thought it was
Depends on
longer.
how quickly the rice cooks.
Okay, all right. It's delicious. We've had it before. It's so good, and you're really kind when you send us home with a few leftovers. That's really nice. Um, so when y'all do the paella dinner, you're doing the main dish, the paella, and Aixa is usually making a flan.
Yes, she does. She does a dessert.
What's in the flan? Is it condensed milk and caramel or something like that?
It's condensed milk and eggs
Right. Yeah. So she has the
and then
flan.
there's some caramelized. Yeah.
So that's the dessert. What other do you serve bread with the paella?
So the paella, like I said, the dish has everything. It has
Does it have vegetables in
it has vegetables. The vegetables are usually frozen lima beans or
it? Yeah.
and peas and green beans, but it has the rice, it has the meats, it has the vegetables in it. So
Okay.
we the only thing you really need to accompany it is a side salad and some bread, some dinner rolls. So
And what do you wash it down with?
we also make sangria.
Uh-huh.
Normally, the party includes a welcoming sangria. So I made usually about 4 gallons of sangria,
Mm-hmm.
two bowls of 2 gallons each, and
And what's
that's supposed to be the welcoming drink, but many times it lasts through the evening.
so sangria is red wine and what else?
Well, you can make sangria with different types of sangria depending but the one that we normally make is with red wine and then citrus fruits, or the juice of oranges, limes, lemons. Put some triple sec, some brandy, and some simple sugar.
Yummy. So how many paella dinners do y'all do in a year? Like,
Two, sometimes three.
yeah, but you've got it down to a science now. You
Yeah,
really know how to do it.
yeah.
I mean, if y'all could come to their house and see, you've got all the tables and chairs neatly stored away downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So you know when you're going to do it. You get those up first, right? And clean everything off.
Yeah.
And get the tablecloths out.
Uh-huh.
And get your food and your sangria made, and you really know how to do it from start to finish.
Yeah, we normally tell whoever is the person
the organizer
who bought that auction item. We normally tell them to have their guests come about 2 hours before they want to sit down to dinner, because, like I said, it takes about 2 hours to cook it, and most people like to watch how the process goes. So when guests arrive, the house is set up. We've set it up during the morning, and usually they're gonna sit down to dinner around 6, and people arrive around 4, and the sangria is there to welcome them. And we usually have a charcuterie board, usually with Spanish jamón serrano, mortadella, chorizo,
some olives.
and queso manchego. Yeah, so it's a Spanish themed charcuterie board, and they eat a little bit of that, and while the thing is getting cooked, and then we sit down to dinner, and
I think everybody has a good time.
Usually they do.
I remember when all the kids were younger, and it would be around 4th of July. I'm saying, Victor, please make a paella for us, and that was before you were doing it on such a regular basis.
I've done that. Yeah, there was one 4th of July that my sisters were here visiting, and that came out. It's like, let's do a paella. So it was kind of a spur of the moment. Okay, we'll go on and get everything and do it. Yeah.
Always a good time though. So much fun. It's just a good. I mean, because everybody's mixing around, mulling around, and it's just kind of it causes everybody to talk and look around and watch. It's a lot of fun. Now y'all like to travel?
Yes, we do.
So tell me, I know when the kids were younger, y'all took a couple trips to Disney World, right?
Yeah, when the kids were younger, we would go to Disney about every other year, probably.
Yeah. But now that they're not home, you've taken some pretty nice trips recently. What are some of the places y'all been to?
So we've been to Europe the last couple of years, about once a year. Been been to Italy, or that was the first place we went. And then, especially when Victor was in grad school, he spent a year in Bologna, Italy. So we went to Italy, um, and went to Rome for a couple of days, and then went to Tuscany for a couple of days, and then went to Cinque Terre for a couple of days. And on the days that we were in Florence, we took the train up to Bologna to go see his school and visit with him. And he actually joined us a couple other times. Would take the train and spend the night with us, and spend a day with us. So um, so that was a nice vacation. Then we've gone to a couple of years later. Then Nicole was overseas, and she did a semester in the Netherlands in a small town called Wales, and her school, Emerson College, actually owns a castle in Wales.
Oh, wow!
And so their study abroad program is based on the castle, and they live in the castle, and they take classes in the castle.
Did she enjoy that?
Oh, she loved it. So we went and we spent a couple of days in Amsterdam, and then we took the train down to Wales and visited Nicole overnight in Wales, and then after we finished that, then Nicole stayed in school, and we went to Paris for a couple of days. We've gone to Paris, France, also with Aixa's family. They had a big family reunion there because her mother wanted to go to Paris one last time before she was too old to travel. And we had all her family there. That was an interesting trip. We stayed in a big Airbnb, everybody together. And then the last couple of years, we went to Ireland 2 years ago.
Ireland, I remember that
because the Irish were playing Navy in the Aer Lingus Classic, to first game of the year, week 0. So we went there for the game, and we bought a package and traveled the country a little bit. And then last year, or last October, we went to, a year. This last October, last year,
2024.
2024, we went to Greece and Croatia for 10 days.
Was that beautiful?
That was beautiful.
Was that the most beautiful place you've been to, you think?
I think they all been beautiful.
Yeah,
they are different.
In different ways.
Different.
I remember when y'all were younger, you and Aixa took a trip to Hawaii.
Yes.
And particularly one thing, you took some kind of bike ride where you
So
Tell us about it.
I think that was for Aixa's birthday, because we went late in November. And I think it might have been around our 10th anniversary or something like that. I forget. But we went after her. We went basically for her birthday, and we went to Maui. One of the many things that we did there, and one of the big things to do in Maui, is to go see the sunrise at the top of Haleakala, which is the big volcano in Maui, which is about 10,000 feet. And it's interesting because we had to dress up in full winter gear to be
cold weather clothes.
It was late November, early December. It was 30 degrees up there to go see the sunrise. And we dressed up they gave us winter clothes, winter jackets and stuff, because it was pretty cold. Yeah, it was as cold as it was the last couple of days here.
Right. But then,
then we biked down from the tour company came to our hotel, picked us up, took us to their staging place down in the town, and fitted us with all the winter gear and stuff, and the bikes and the helmets and everything. And then they bussed us up to the top of the mountain, and we watched the sunrise. And then we started biking down, and you pedal twice. You pedal to get out of the parking lot and start going downhill, and then you don't pedal again until you get to the very bottom.
My God.
You're just
How
going
fast
straight downhill.
How fast are you going?
I don't know, 20 miles an hour or something like
that.
Is
it important to pay attention?
Absolutely. Because it's all hairpin turns going down the volcano. So yeah.
Did either one of you fall?
I fell.
Oh! But you got back up and kept going.
Yeah.
Do you have to take clothes off while you're coming
down?
So yeah.
So you started with full winter gear, and about once you got to about 2,000 feet down, then they stopped on a little uh, overview pass,
Right.
and you start shedding clothes, and they put stuff in the
Van.
van. So you shed one layer of clothes, and you just kept a jacket on. And then when you got all the way down to the bottom, then you stopped again and shed the jacket, and then you were in shorts and a t-shirt.
That's amazing. Amazing. Would you recommend that for people?
I do. It was fun. It was good. I might be a little too old to do it now, but if you're young and you're a thrill seeker, that was a good event.
Go to Maui. Yes. Any place you want to visit that you haven't been yet?
So we were going to go to Spain last year, and then we got this trip to Greece. We ended up getting this trip on an auction for the Smith Clinic.
Mhm.
We ended up bidding on one of their silent auction packages, and it was a trip to Greece. And it had to be redeemed either last fall or fall of 2025.
Mhm.
So we decided, I had already separated 2 weeks off vacation to go to Spain. We decided to, instead of going to Spain, to go to Greece and Croatia on 2024, and we'll do Spain eventually. It's kind of the back. So I think that will be our next international trip.
Okay. You mentioned the Smith Medical Clinic.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about that. First, tell our listeners, what is the Smith Medical Clinic?
Smith Medical Clinic is the free medical clinic for people without financial resources, that don't have insurance, and it provides general medical care, and then they have several subspecialists that come and do specialty clinics, and it's all volunteer work.
Mhm.
And I do volunteer there one day every 4 weeks, one afternoon every 4 weeks, to do a cardiology clinic. I've been doing that for over 10 to 15 years.
You got to feel good about that. That's good work. Do you see a lot of patients when you go in there on that day?
They usually have about 10 to 12 patients lined
Wow.
up for me.
Mm-hmm. And do you have to do follow-ups with those patients?
Yes.
Oh gosh. Okay. And what other kind of specialties come into the Smith Medical Clinic?
They have pulmonology. They do diabetes care. I think they have somebody doing women's care. So they have a full array of different subspecialties.
Right. And how does the Smith Medical Clinic get their funding?
It's mostly through donations.
Mm-hmm.
And they ask for donations from the community. They take big part on Palmetto Giving Day.
Yeah.
Then their big fundraiser is this gala that they run usually in the spring. So
and that's held at Frank's Restaurant on a Sunday.
Frank's, yes, it's
I believe
coming up. I think it's coming up on May the 4th. If I can put a plug in there.
Yeah, May the 4th. I believe Aixa and Lisa Phelan are working on that, aren't they?
Yes, Lisa has been part of the organizing committee for the gala for the last couple of years, and she's good friends with Aixa, and she talked her into being part of the organizing committee this year. So yes, Aixa's in the organizing committee.
Such a great cause though, to help people who need medical care. And it's so grateful that so many physicians will give their time freely to take care of the people.
Physicians and nurses.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for joining. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners, or you think that's about it? Or?
I think that's about it.
Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate you joining us in the month of February for Heart Month and talking about cardiology and interventional cardiology and what you do. We're so appreciative of what you've done for our town and being there to save the lives of so many people and setting a good example for those around you. So thank you. Okay, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Victor. Bye.
Bye.
God, I'm still counting my blessings, all that you've done in my life. The more that I look in the details, the more of your goodness I find. Father, on this side of heaven, I know that I'll run out of time, but I will keep counting my blessings. Knowing I can't count that high. And I know that seasons never last forever. So God, I will remember all of the reasons my heart has to be great.
I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I enjoyed sitting down and talking with Dr. Diaz. He really is so smart, and he's so calm, and he listens very carefully, and it just gives great answers, and really cares about his patients and cares about his friends. He's a wonderful person in general. And I need to do a point of clarification. At the beginning of the interview, we talked about how our family and their family met at a McDonald's up in Myrtle Beach. And he talked about how he saw two children wearing Notre Dame clothes. Patrick had a Notre Dame football jersey on, and Mary Catherine had a Notre Dame cheerleading outfit on. And so that is because my husband is a Notre Dame fan. You know, I'm a Clemson graduate, Clemson fan, but occasionally I do let them put on some Notre Dame clothes. That was mostly when they were little. So that's why. And when Notre Dame plays any sports, usually Pat, my husband, and Victor and Aixa are all texting together or watching the game together. So they do have that common bond too. And they'll cheer for Clemson too, which is great. But just wanted to clear that up. And also, I hope you enjoyed learning about paella, because that's just a fabulous meal that they prepare. And it's, if you haven't ever had it and you have a nonprofit that you want to, somebody wants to give some money to a nonprofit, they will feed your group and entertain y'all. So also good to know. But thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed hearing about Dr. Diaz and as his life as a cardiologist here in Georgetown County with Tidelands Health. And we're getting ready to have another guest for you next week. So get ready. Weather's warming up, and pretty soon daylight savings time will be here. We are getting ready for some more great beach weather. So take care, have a great week, and see you soon. Bye.